Fish poles! Hey, I'm Ben. I'm a huge fly fisherman, and today we're going to talk about my fly rods. If you're familiar with my videos, you know that I don't talk a lot about the gear that I'm using, and that's because I don't think it matters very much, but I get a lot of questions about it, so here we are, and you're watching this video. This is not an advertisement for any rod companies. You know me, if I'm trying to sell you something, I'm pretty transparent about it. I'm just going to give you my honest opinion about a bunch of fly rods. One of my opinions about fly rods is that they're somewhat disposable. They will break. Rods come and go. I buy them and I sell them. Today I'm going to talk about what I currently have in my quiver. And by quiver, I mean a 5-gallon bucket that I keep in my garage. One thing that you should know is that I've never paid retail for a fly rod, ever. That's not a brag, it's just to let you know where I'm coming from, and maybe it explains a little bit about my attitude of fly rods being disposable. Another thing you should know is that rods are not going to be the same for everyone. The way that you cast, which is probably poorly, is going to influence your opinion of a fly rod. Just because I like the flex of a certain fly rod or some of the features that it has doesn't mean that you will like it too. Be your own person and stop copying me. Also, the line that you have on your fly rod is going to make a huge difference in how that rod performs. Speaking of huge, got some new merch. Check it out on the website. All right, we've got a lot to get through, so let's jump in. We'll start on the low end with this 2-weight from Deep Bend Rod Works, a custom fiberglass rod maker. This is a 7-foot rod. It says it can take a 2 or a 3 line. I fish it with a 2-weight. Being fiberglass, this rod's pretty noodly, as expected. It's got an agate stripping guide. Nice little touch there. Down locking reel seat, which is pretty typical for small rods. I do not know what blank this is built on. Marty, maybe you can leave a comment and let us know. One thing I found unusual about this rod is that it has a full Wells grip, which is not common for small rods. Personally, I think I'd prefer a cigar or a half Wells, but I'm not real picky, and I can always modify this and sand it down if I want to. So that's my Deep Bend Rod Works fiberglass 2-weight rod. Super fun small stream rod. Probably doesn't get as much use as it really should. I need to get out on the small water more. All right, next rod is one you've heard me talk about a few times, so I'll try to keep it brief. This is the Echo Gecko. This rod is 7 feet 9 inches long, 4 pieces, and it can take a 4 or a 5 line. This rod is made for kids, and I do not know of a better kids fly fishing rod. So if you're looking to get your little one into fly fishing, I highly recommend the Echo Gecko. Again, this is not an advertisement, I just think it's a great rod. It's got a hook keeper, up-locking reel seat, but the real juice is the handle. It's got a skinny handle for little munchkin hands, and it's got this butt down here so they can two-hand it. If you've got a kid nearby, hand them a fly rod, I guarantee you they will hold it like this. This rod's pretty soft and noodly. I honestly don't know if this is fiberglass or graphite or a combination of both. I think it's graphite. If somebody knows, go ahead and leave a comment and enlighten us. So fantastic kids rod, and extra bonus, I use this rod on small streams more than anything else. It's a really fun rod, even for grown-ups. Continuing on, we got a couple more 4-weights. Let's start with this one. Sage LL in 7 feet 11 inches. Again, it's a 4-weight. 2-piece, as you can see. Now, this is the old LL. This rod's at least 25 years old. They came out with a new version of this that I have not picked up, so I don't really know anything about it. But this rod right here is a sweet dry fly rod, and I've got a lot of memories attached to this rod right here. This is the first rod that I ever broke on a fish on that Freestone in Western Maryland. I actually broke a couple inches off the tip of this a long time ago and did a pretty crappy repair job. So it's really more like a 7.9 these days than a 7.11, but it casts just fine. Again, super smooth casting, dry fly rod. I like the split ring hook keeper. That's pretty neat. Don't see that anymore. I don't really use this rod much anymore, honestly, because I'm scared to break it and there's just too much sentimental value attached to it. I think I'll give it to my kids someday and let them break it. So Sage LL, one of the best lighter dry fly rods ever made, period. All right, next we got another 4-weight. This is a St. Croix Legend Ultra 9-foot 4-weight, 4-piece. This is my main dry fly rod for medium to big water, and I cast this rod better than any other rod that I own. I've had a ton of St. Croix Legends. I'm down to just 2 right now. I love the medium action. It is just perfect for me. Again, lots of memories with this rod. It's pretty old. I've caught a lot of fish on it. I wore grooves into all the guides. It's been broken a bunch of times, but shout out to St. Croix Rod's customer service. Some of the best I've ever dealt with. I've sent 50 rods back to them and they've been great. But they made a big mistake when they discontinued most of their fly rods and they don't make them anymore. Big loss. I'm super bummed. I love these rods, but can't get them anymore. Also, shout out to St. Croix for having the best rod tubes. They've got dividers inside for all the pieces and a strap so I can strap it to my backpack. How do other rod manufacturers not do this? This is such a crucial piece of a rod tube. So that's my main 4-weight. If you want to see what I really do with this rod, there's a bunch of exclusive videos on my website where we get into a bunch of big brown trout. All right, next we're moving up to 5 weights. This is an Orvis Encounter 8-foot 5-weight, 4 pieces. I've actually only used this rod a couple times and I still haven't even caught a fish on it, but that's not the rod's fault, that's on me. I bought this rod as just kind of a backup 5-weight, a beater rod that I can lend out to people, and also it's gonna be good for my kids when they get a little bit older. The 8-foot length is nice, and this model comes with a little bit of a smaller handle that's better for kids. I believe it's only the 8-foot 5-weight Encounter that has this handle, which is why I bought it. So just a basic, inexpensive 5-weight. If you're just starting out or something, this would probably be a great rod for you. Again, that's the Orvis Encounter. Oh, and hey, look at that. Actually, this rod tube has dividers and a strap. All right, I stand corrected. And I got another 5-weight here. It is another Orvis. It's the 9-foot 5-weight Orvis Recon. The Recon's a step down from the Helios 3, which is their top end. So it's not their fastest, stiffest model, which again is good for me. I like a little bit slower action. I've been really happy with this rod. It casts well and everything, and it's got nice components. It's got this wood burl or whatever reel seat. I bought this rod to replace the St. Croix Legend 5-weight, and it's done a good job of filling that niche. It's soft and smooth enough for dry flies, but it's still got enough backbone where I can chuck a bobber rig with it also. And I liked this rod enough that I actually bought it in a 6-weight also. So we might as well jump into that rod next. 9-foot 6-weight Orvis Recon. This rod's actually brand new. I haven't even fished it yet. I just got it for an upcoming trip to Chile for some trout fishing. I wanted a rod that's going to be able to throw big dry flies with a dropper behind it, and I'm sure it's going to do great for that. And it'll also be a better nymphing bobber rig than the 5-weight, I believe. So medium to medium stiff 6-weight. I'm looking forward to getting this cork dirty. Sticking with the 6-weights, I've got one more. It's a 9-foot 6-weight Sage DS 2-piece rod. As you can see, I would never buy a 2-piece rod ever again. This was my first real fly rod. And by that, I mean that I started with a couple of Kmart special combos. One was a Shakespeare and one was a Martin. Those were my first fly rods. But this was my first graphite fly rod that came from a fly shop. I think my folks bought this for me when I was about 15. Again, it's a Sage DS Graphite 2. If you know what this is, then you know. This is a 30-year-old rod for sure. And it's perfectly good still. I actually fish with this rod a few times a year. Mostly nymphing, I think. It's just a workhorse of a 6-weight. Probably my most vivid memory of this rod is when I first got it. I took it out of the tube and I showed it to my brother, and he was bending it like this and snapped the tip section right in half after I'd had it for about 5 minutes. They replaced the tip section obviously for me under warranty, and I actually broke this tip section again last summer, and that was after their whole warranty changeover thing where they basically hosed everybody on their warranties. But they either had a section lying around or built a new one for me. I put up a little stink on Instagram. I'm not sure if that influenced it all or because they knew I'm a huge big time fly fishing YouTube guy, but either way they gave me a new tip section, but there's a lot of other people out there just getting absolutely worked by Stage's warranty. Meaning that they either won't fix your rod or replace a section, or it will cost you more to fix or replace the rod than it did to buy the rod originally. Stage is taking a big L on that one, and there's plenty of other people bitching about that besides me, so I don't need to head up that cause. Sage lost me anyway when they started naming everything XYZ R94. I can't keep all that straight. I don't know what any of that stuff means, man. You gotta name your rods better. Anyway, Sage, thanks for the new section. That's the Sage DS 6-weight 9-footer. Sticking with the 6 weights, I have two 12-foot 6-weight spey rods from Orvis. This is the Mission. Last time I went to Alaska, Orvis hooked me up with some gear, and long story short, I ended up with 3 6-weight 12-foot spey rods, 2 Missions and 1 Clearwater. I make no claims to be a good spey caster or knowledgeable about the rods, but I know that the Mission is the higher end and stiffer rod compared to the Clearwater. I didn't fish the Clearwater much at all, but I thought the Missions performed just fine, except for one of them broke in the first 2 minutes of casting it. Here's a clip that you haven't seen before.
Oh, fuck me. Well, that's pretty cool. Not sure what's up with that. Good thing I brought 2. It broke between the feet of the guide. This is a used rod. This is not brand new.
And is it right at the ferrule?
No, it's right between the feet of the guides, dude. Look at that.
Holy.
I've never seen a rod break like that.
No.
Ever. I've seen a lot of fucking broken rods.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't think that was the rod's fault. Things happen. There was probably a nick in the graphite or something. A lot of people like to hate on Orvis, but I think it's unwarranted. I think they make great gear. Everything I've ever had from them has been awesome. Their customer service is fantastic, and they've just been really good to me over the last 4 years or so. I ended up giving the Clearwater away in a video, but I've still got these 2 Missions. Actually, I haven't sent the broken one in yet, so I gotta do that. Now we're gonna move up to 8 weights. This is one of my all-time favorite rods. 9-foot, 8-weight St. Croix Legend Elite Saltwater. Saltwater just means it has different components that are more resistant to saltwater. I don't think the taper would be any different than the freshwater version. Again, if I'm wrong, someone correct me. So like my other Legends, this rod is a medium action and it just suits my casting style. This rod is a workhorse. I have done so much stuff with this rod. Carp, bass, redfish, all kinds of stuff. As I said before, St. Croix discontinued most of their fly rods, which I think was stupid. I mean, the Legends were great and the Bank Robbers were a fantastic streamer rod. And after they did that, I broke this rod and I called them and I was like, hey, what, you gonna send me an Imperial? And the guy on the phone was actually like, well, you have an unusual rod there. I don't know what makes it unusual. Maybe they just didn't make that many. But they actually built me a new tip section. And that's great and all, but I think next time I break it, they're not gonna do that. I've still been using this rod a lot, but I'm sure its days are numbered. St. Croix Legend Elite Saltwater, main redfish and bass rod. Oh, also it has a triangle tube, so it doesn't roll around. I think that's kind of a nice touch. Next is another 8-weight. It's a Orvis 9-foot 8-weight Helios 3. This is the first rod I got from Orvis. I was on Tom Rosenbauer's podcast, and I guess as a thank you, he's like, hey man, you want a rod? So of course I'm gonna say yes. And this is what I chose, 8-weight H3. It's been a great rod. I've caught a ton of fish on it. This rod is probably the lightest and most sensitive rod that I've ever used. And I talked about this in a recent video, but I have decided that it's not the best rod for me. It used to be my main 8-weight for saltwater flats fishing, but I've gone back to that St. Croix. This rod is just a little too stiff for me in like redfish situations. I cast the softer rod better. I am still gonna use this rod as my main streamer rod where I'm using a heavy sink tip and a big heavy fly. That extra load on the rod helps me cast it better. It kind of counteracts the stiffness. None of the Orvis rods that I've showed you have hook keepers, and I know that was a personal choice from Sean, the rod designer. I think he's got a personal vendetta against hook keepers, but I like him, and I wish there was a hook keeper down here. Obviously, I can use one of the guides up there. It's not not that big of a deal. And speaking of guides, my stripping guide doesn't fit in my rod vault on my car, so I had to kind of smash it a little bit, and now it's broken. But the rod works just fine. And another thing you'll notice on all the Helios rods is the white label. Genius marketing choice there, Sean. These rods are instantly recognizable from 100 yards away. Again, fantastic rod, light, sensitive. It's just not best for me in all situations. All right, we're gonna keep working up the scale here. I've never owned a 9-weight rod. I sold my 10-weight and I gave my 11-weight away, but I have two 12-weights. This is two of the exact same rod from TFO. This is the Temple Fork BC Big Fly 12-weight 9-foot 4-piece. If you'll remember, I did a muskie trip last fall and I didn't have any rods or gear appropriate for that. So I went with what I'd heard most about, and that's this rod designed by Blaine Chocolate for muskie fishing. Couple cool things about this rod. It's got an extended handle and you can hold this upper handle in a few different ways. That's pretty slick. And then it's got this lower handle down here. This does two things. One, you use it when you're figure eighting. It's a little less fatigue on your forearm. And also, at the end of the day, when you've been casting 12 weights and giant flies all day, it gets a little tiring, so you can actually two-hand this bad boy if you want to also. So dual purpose, and just a nice designed handle. Good components, obviously. It seems well made. I was warned about the recoil guides in cold weather where they'll bend and not bend back, but I haven't experienced that issue yet. I've been pretty happy with these rods so far. I fished this rod with two different sink tip lines and an intermediate line, and it casts everything great. TFO is also widely known for their speedy and easy to deal with customer service. I don't have firsthand experience with that, but I've heard that from a lot of people that I know. Also, I just want to give TFO a shout out for standing behind me. I had this trip lined up and basically, I just straight up asked him if I could have a couple rods. I know that doesn't make me sound like a great person, and I have a hard time asking for stuff, but I hit him up on Instagram and literally I was like, would you want to support the cause? And like 10 minutes later, I had a response. They were like, what do you need? And I said, I need two 12 weights, and I had them in my hand like a week later. I think it says a lot for a company to get behind me. There are a lot of companies that do not want to associate with me at all. And that's fine. I know why. I have a bit of an attitude. I say things that don't go over so well, and there's just a lot of bullshit in general that comes out of my mouth. Any companies that don't want to toe the line of upsetting people, I can't blame them. I get it. But on the other side, there are plenty of companies that have been eager to work with me and support me and get behind what I do. Anyway, this is about fly rods. 12-weight TFO BC Big Fly. Absolutely recommend this rod. And that's gonna do it. We just went through all of the fly rods that I currently own. Again, this is a video that you asked for, and if you have video ideas, I'm always open to hearing them, as long as they don't suck. Thank you as always for watching another one of my huge fly fisherman videos. I will be back as soon as I can with a new video about fly fishing for you. Until then, go get yourself a new fly rod and stay huge. Today is January 2nd, and I have not broken any fly rods this year. Doing good.